The classroom burst into laughter when the teacher waved a crumpled note, mocking its spelling and crooked lines. A little girl hid her face, ashamed of the father who had written it. What no one realized was that those same rough words, born of calloused hands and late nights, would soon turn ridicule into silence, and reveal a strength that could not be ignored. Before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. Let's begin. Logan Brooks had always believed that love mattered more than polish. He worked 2 jobs to keep the lights on and still managed to help his 9-year-old daughter Chloe with homework late into the night. His handwriting was clumsy, his spelling far from perfect, but his effort was never in question. That morning, Chloe carried a note from him to school, a simple explanation about why her assignment was late, comparing fractions to sharing pizza slices. Logan had scribbled it quickly before running to his second shift. But inside Chloe's classroom, the note became a weapon. Mrs. Turner, her sharp-tongued teacher, held it aloft like a joke. "Whose father writes notes like this?" she asked, smirking. Laughter rippled through the students. Chloe's cheeks burned crimson. She lowered her head, wishing the desk could swallow her whole. The sound of her classmates' giggles stung more than the teacher's words. By the end of the day, Chloe was silent, clutching her backpack straps tightly. That evening, Logan noticed immediately. "What's wrong, Peanut?" he asked gently, crouching to meet her eyes. Chloe whispered, "They laughed at your note." Logan's chest tightened. He forced a smile and squeezed her hand. "Then let's give them something better. There's that essay contest, write about who inspires you. Be honest. Tell them about us." Chloe hesitated, but the seed had been planted. That night, her pencil hovered over the page. Could she really put her father, flaws, grease-stained hands and all, into words? Chloe sat at her small desk that night, the lamp flickering beside her. Logan had already fallen asleep on the couch, still in his work boots, exhaustion written across his face. She watched him for a long moment, his chest rising and falling steadily. Then she turned back to the paper. At first, the words came slowly. "My hero is my dad." She wrote about how he fixed her shoes at 3 a.m., so she wouldn't be embarrassed at school. About how he gave his only jacket once to a homeless man, walking home shivering. About the way he worked double shifts yet always found time to quiz her on multiplication tables, even if he mixed up the answers. Tears blurred her vision, but she kept writing. By the time she finished, her hand ached. She folded the paper carefully, sliding it into her backpack. The next morning, Chloe handed the essay in, her palms sweaty. Mrs. Turner barely looked up, muttering, "We'll see," with a dismissive wave. Chloe walked to her seat, cheeks hot. That afternoon, an announcement crackled over the intercom: "Students, please gather in the gymnasium. Selected essays will be shared." Chloe froze. She hadn't expected her essay to be chosen. Kids whispered excitedly, filing into the gym. Mrs. Turner stood smugly near the bleachers, certain her star students would shine. But when the principal stepped to the podium, he held Chloe's folded essay in his hands. His voice was unusually steady, even emotional. "Today, I want to read something that reminded me what school is truly about. Not image, not grades, but character." Chloe's breath caught. Her heart hammered. "No, not mine." And then he unfolded her paper. The gym buzzed with sneakers squeaking on polished floors, students whispering, parents scattered in the front rows. Chloe sat stiffly near the back, wishing she could vanish. Principal Harris adjusted his glasses and began to read. "My hero is my dad. He may not spell everything right, but he spells love in ways no one else can." The room quieted. Snickers faded. "He fixes my shoes at night so I'm not embarrassed. He gives away his gloves even when his hands turn red. He works 2 jobs but still helps me with math, even if he's falling asleep." Chloe pressed her hands into her lap, her face hot with both pride and terror. By the time the principal reached the last line, "My dad isn't rich. He isn't perfect. But he's mine. And he's my hero." The gym was silent. Not a laugh, not a whisper. Just stillness. Then, slowly, applause began. Parents stood. Even some students clapped hard, eyes wide, as though realizing they had been caught mocking something sacred. Chloe blinked in disbelief, her chest swelling with a strange, new feeling, pride. But not everyone clapped. Mrs. Turner sat stiff, her arms crossed, her smile brittle. And just as the noise swelled, a boy from Chloe's class blurted out loudly, "Wait, is that about Chloe's dad? The mechanic who works by the gas station?" Gasps rippled. Heads turned. Logan's name was suddenly on everyone's lips. Some nodded with admiration, but others murmured doubt, even judgment. Chloe's stomach dropped. The essay had lifted her, but now the spotlight was burning. The applause still echoed when Principal Harris folded the essay carefully, as if it were fragile. "This," he said, his voice steady, "is why we teach. Not for tests or trophies, but for the kind of love that builds character." Chloe kept her eyes glued to the floor, praying no one would look her way. But the boy's outburst had already shifted attention. Whispers darted across the gym like sparks. "Her dad's the mechanic near 8th Street, isn't he the one always covered in grease?" Then, from the parents' section, a voice rose. "Logan Brooks?" A woman stood, tall and polished in a business suit. Chloe's breath hitched, she recognized her best friend's mother. "I know him. He fixed my car last winter. Didn't even charge me the full price. Stayed late in the cold so I could get home to my kids." Her words hung in the air like a counterweight to the whispers. The applause picked up again, louder this time. Chloe dared to glance up. For the first time, she saw respect in the eyes around her, not pity. But at that same moment, Logan entered the gym. He had come straight from work, his shirt still smudged with oil, his boots heavy with the scent of asphalt. He froze at the doorway, confused by the clapping, until his gaze found Chloe. The crowd noticed too. A ripple of recognition passed through the bleachers. Some parents smiled warmly, others whispered behind hands. Mrs. Turner shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Principal Harris extended a hand. "Mr. Brooks, would you join us?" Logan hesitated, every instinct screaming to turn back. He wasn't used to being seen. But Chloe's wide, hopeful eyes rooted him in place. Slowly, he stepped forward into the spotlight, and for the first time, it didn't feel like judgment. It felt like a reckoning. Logan's work boots thudded against the polished gym floor as he walked toward the stage. He kept his chin down, acutely aware of the oil stains on his shirt, the tired lines etched into his face. Chloe watched him, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles turned white. Principal Harris gestured warmly. "Mr. Brooks, your daughter's essay moved this entire school. Thank you for showing us what true dedication looks like." The gym erupted in applause again. Logan gave a nervous nod, scratching the back of his neck. But not everyone was clapping. Near the front row, a sharply dressed father leaned toward another parent and whispered, not quietly enough, "This is who we're applauding. A man who can't even write a proper note." Logan heard it. The word stung, sharper than he expected. He opened his mouth to respond, but before he could, the business-suited mother from earlier stood again. Her voice rang clear, funny. "That same man kept me safe on a freezing night when my car broke down. Where were you then, sir?" A few chuckles rippled through the crowd. The father flushed red and looked away. Chloe's chest swelled with pride. For once, her father wasn't the man people mocked in silence. He was being defended. Still, Logan felt the weight of all those eyes. He cleared his throat. "I'm no hero," he said quietly, his voice carrying through the mic, "I'm just doing my best for my daughter. That's all any parent can do." The simplicity of his words hushed the gym. Chloe's eyes shimmered. But as Logan stepped down, Mrs. Turner stood abruptly, her lips tight. "Principal Harris," she said, her voice sharp, "may I remind you that this assembly was for student work, not parental speeches." Gasps scattered. Chloe froze. The teacher's words weren't just aimed at Logan. They were aimed at her. The gym fell into uneasy silence after Mrs. Turner's cutting remark. Parents shifted in their seats, students glanced at one another, unsure if they were allowed to laugh or stay quiet. Logan stopped mid-step. He turned slowly toward the teacher, his jaw tight but his voice calm. "With all respect, ma'am, it was my daughter's words you heard, not mine. I only came forward because you called attention to me." Mrs. Turner's expression hardened. "Still, this is a school, Mr. Brooks. We have standards. Proper grammar, proper notes. We can't just—" "Standards?" The suited mother cut in again, her voice sharp with disbelief. "What standard are we teaching when we mock a child for her parents' handwriting? When we humiliate a student in front of her class?" A murmur spread through the crowd. Even Principal Harris's face darkened. "Mrs. Turner," he said firmly, "perhaps you should consider whether your standards are lifting children up, or tearing them down." For the first time, Mrs. Turner faltered. Her cheeks flushed, and she fumbled with her attendance sheet. Chloe's eyes widened. She had never seen an adult speak against her teacher. Logan wanted to step in again, but something stopped him. A small hand tugged his sleeve. It was Chloe, her voice barely above a whisper. "Dad, let me." Logan hesitated, then nodded. Chloe stood, her knees trembling, but her voice clear. "My dad may not spell everything right. But he's the reason I can read. He's the reason I know how to share, and why I believe in kindness. If that's not what school is for, then maybe we're learning the wrong things." The gym erupted, not in laughter, but in applause so loud it rattled the bleachers. Mrs. Turner sank into her chair, unable to meet anyone's eyes. After the assembly, the gym buzzed like a hive. Parents clustered in small groups, whispering about what had just unfolded. Some gave Logan a respectful nod as he passed, others clapped him on the back. Chloe walked proudly beside him, clutching his rough hand with both of hers. In the hallway, a man in a worn postal uniform caught up. "Mr. Brooks?" Logan turned, cautious. The man smiled. "Name's Mark. My boy's in Chloe's class. I just wanted to say, thank you. For reminding us what matters." He hesitated, then added, "You're not alone in this." More parents gathered. One mother said she'd noticed her daughter hiding struggles because she was embarrassed about their small apartment. Another admitted she'd been guilty of judging people like Logan without knowing their stories. Then Principal Harris approached, holding a folder. His voice was steady but warm. "Mr. Brooks, Chloe's essay sparked something bigger than you realize. Several parents came to me already. They want to start a fund to help families like yours access school programs without extra fees. And they want Chloe to be the first student enrolled." Logan blinked, stunned. "A scholarship?" "Yes," Harris said. "Free tutoring, activities, field trips. All covered." Logan's throat tightened. He glanced at Chloe, who was beaming, her eyes wide with hope. But then another voice cut through, sharp, bitter. Mrs. Turner, arms crossed, lingered near the office door. "So now we hand out rewards for pity? For broken grammar and pizza slice math?" Gasps scattered. Logan stiffened, ready to defend Chloe. But before he could speak, Principal Harris turned on the teacher, his jaw set. "Enough, Mrs. Turner. You've crossed the line. I'll see you in my office." The crowd watched in silence as she walked stiffly down the hall, her heels clicking like nails on tile. Chloe squeezed her dad's hand. "They believe us now," she whispered. Logan swallowed hard. For the first time in years, he felt it too. A week later, Logan sat nervously in a hard plastic chair outside the principal's office. Parent-teacher conferences were routine for most parents, but for him, it felt like standing trial. Chloe squeezed his hand before heading to class, whispering, "Don't let them make you feel small, Dad." When his name was called, Logan stepped inside. Mrs. Turner sat at the table, her expression unreadable. Principal Harris perched at the end, hands folded. The air was heavy. Mrs. Turner cleared her throat first. "Mr. Brooks, I want to address the incident last week. My words may have been harsher than intended." Logan leaned forward, his voice calm but firm. "You didn't just make a slip, ma'am. You mocked me in front of my daughter. That kind of thing sticks." It almost made her ashamed of who she is, and of me. Silence stretched. Mrs. Turner's face flickered with something, not defensiveness this time, but unease. She glanced at Harris, then back at Logan. "You're right. I was wrong." Her voice softened, surprising him. "I've built my career on holding students to high standards. But somewhere along the way, I forgot the difference between high standards and harshness. Chloe reminded me." Logan blinked, caught off guard. He had expected denial, excuses, not this. Then came the twist. Mrs. Turner slid a folder across the table. Inside was a letter written in neat cursive. "It's from me," she said. "For Chloe. I want her to know I see her strength, and yours. If she'll let me, I'd like to be part of helping her grow." For a long moment, Logan said nothing. His jaw tightened, his rough hands resting on the folder. Finally, he nodded once. "Then prove it. Not to me, to her." Mrs. Turner's eyes lowered, but for the first time, she looked less like a critic and more like a woman facing her own reflection. In the weeks that followed, Chloe walked through the school halls a little taller. Classmates who once giggled at her now asked for help with math problems. Parents who once ignored Logan nodded respectfully at pickup. Even Mrs. Turner softened, praising Chloe's work with an almost maternal warmth that felt strange but genuine. At home, the change was just as clear. Chloe laughed more, drew colorful pictures of her and Logan standing on a stage with the words, "My hero," above them. Logan taped each one to the fridge, pretending not to get choked up every time. But while Chloe flourished, Logan's burdens didn't vanish. The garage cut his hours, and his second job barely covered rent. One evening, after Chloe had gone to bed, he sat at the kitchen table, bills spread out like a storm. His chest tightened. He had no idea how he'd afford the winter coat Chloe needed or the field trip she now qualified for. The knock came late. Their neighbor, Mrs. Lopez, stood in the doorway holding a flyer. "Logan, did you see this? The PDA's organizing a fundraiser, and Chloe's essay is the centerpiece. They want you there." Logan frowned. "Me? Why?" Mrs. Lopez smiled. "Because whether you like it or not, you've become the example. People want to help, but they also want to hear from the man behind the words." Logan's gut twisted. Speaking in front of a crowd? Sharing more of himself than he already had? The idea made his palms sweat. But when Chloe overheard and ran into the room, eyes shining, "Daddy, can we go? Please." Logan knew he couldn't say no. He just didn't realize how much that night would change everything. The school gym looked different that Friday night. Streamers hung from the rafters, tables overflowed with donated baked goods, and parents mingled with neighbors as a student band played off-key but enthusiastically. Chloe clutched Logan's hand, beaming with pride. When Principal Harris took the microphone, he spoke warmly. Tonight, we're here to raise funds for our students' enrichment programs. But more than that, we're here because one little girl reminded us what true inspiration looks like. He gestured toward Chloe. Applause erupted. Logan shifted uncomfortably, wishing the floor would swallow him. But Harris waved him forward. Mr. Brooks, would you say a few words? Logan's throat went dry. He stepped up slowly, gripping the mic with calloused hands. I'm not much for speeches, he began, his voice low. I'm just a dad, trying to do right by my girl. I make mistakes. I get tired. But if Chloe sees me as her hero, then I guess I'm doing something right. The crowd was silent, listening. Then, unexpectedly, Mrs. Turner rose from her seat. She walked to the stage, her voice trembling. I owe Mr. Brooks and Chloe an apology, not just for my words, but for forgetting that teaching is about more than perfect grammar. It's about heart. The gym murmured with surprise. Some even clapped. Logan glanced at Chloe. She was glowing, her little chest puffed with pride. By the end of the night, the fundraiser exceeded every goal. Parents pressed envelopes into Principal Harris's hands, donations piling high. Harris announced that a new scholarship program would be created in Chloe's honor, the Brooks Fund, for families who needed a lift. Walking home under the streetlights, Chloe slipped her small hand into Logan's. See, Daddy. I told you they'd understand. Logan swallowed hard, blinking against the sting in his eyes. You were right, Peanut. You always were. And for the first time in a long time, he didn't just feel like a man surviving day to day. He felt like a father whose love had reshaped an entire community. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe for more stories that stay with you.